Hi there! In today's video I am going to work these two small monument pieces. I've already put some concrete, plaster, and tar onto the walnut blocks and let those dry. I've collected several different materials, have a few ideas in mind, but gonna go ahead and see what happens as I start to put these pieces together. I skipped around quite a bit in these videos trying to shorten it up. So you won't see every process that I'm doing, but you'll get the gist of it and see what I create at the end. I usually start these by adding a base coat of encaustic. Oftentimes I'll use the clear encaustic just to coat all of the different materials and seal them, and then that gives me a good base coat for working the piece as I go forward. I like to use the blowtorch when I'm putting the base coat down. I do what some artists might call an overfuse of this original base coat. I like to make sure that it soaks into all of the different materials that I have onto the wood and that it creates a good bond. After I applied some white and gold encaustic paint, and I also added some blue oil paint on the top, I went ahead and drilled some holes into the wood and started to add some of the rusty pieces that I had gathered there. When I add the rusty pieces, I like to usually have some that will remain in movement or able to move around. So at this point I'm just trying to make sure that I have the piece secured, the metal bit secured, but also with the ability for it to still move. There was a lot of hammering going on during this next section, so you'll have to bear with me as I skip around a little bit so that you don't have to watch all of that. So here's the piece with all of the different nails that I hammered in. I added a little bit of a white hemp cord around the top of it there. I dipped that into the encaustic and wound that around the top. And at this point I'm just etching in some marks into the encaustic that I will be filling here with some oil paint. I'm just using some vegetable oil, just the regular old vegetable oil that you'd buy for your kitchen supply, on a shop towel here and wiping off the excess oil paint. And then I give that a light fuse to set those marks in. At this point I'm going to go ahead and pull out some thread and dip some of that into the encaustic so that it will adhere to the piece, and then I just basically wind that around. Once I have that thread in place where I like it, I go ahead and tack it down with a little more encaustic in the areas where it is touching the wood. That just helps keep it secure. After a light fuse for the thread, that basically wraps this piece up, and I will move on to the second piece. It's always interesting to watch the encaustic interact with the tar. I find even though this has sat for actually a couple of weeks, the tar still sometimes will have some tackiness to it, and the encaustic sometimes will crackle as it absorbs in there. And it's just kind of a neat effect. It's hard to capture on the camera, and I don't always know where or when it's going to happen, but I do like that. At this point with the piece, I decided to add some fabric, and so went ahead and ripped some fabric up, dipped it into the encaustic, and then just started placing those strips onto the piece. I wanted to come up with a couple of ways to create some more texture, so one of the things I did was fold the fabric back onto itself. I left some of the strings of the fabric also, and then again just kind of added some thicker areas of encaustic to try to build up some texture spaces onto different areas on the wood. At this point, I went ahead and added some oil paint to the different texture that I created. I used a transparent earth orange, and now I am creating marks with one of my tools, and I'll be filling those marks in with some blue paint. For those of you not used to working with encaustic, as you heat it, it becomes cloudy. So if you see that cloudiness on there, that's typical. As the wax cools and cures, then it becomes clear. At this point, I had pulled some of the metal pieces. I had this wire, rusty wire, that was bent in this really odd shape, but I really liked the shape of it, and decided to go ahead and place that on or wrap it around the wood piece. And then again, adding another rusty piece here that will have some movement in it. The washer is just sitting on that screw, and so it is still able to move. Also hammering in some more nails as I finish this piece out here shortly, just trying to create some more interest. It's always challenging to know at what stage to add some of these rusty pieces. I put this on here but still didn't feel like it was quite done, so wanted to add some of the sisal fibers that I have. It's an all natural fiber. Just trying to get that placed on there, tacking it in with some encaustic wax, fusing it, and kind of just working it to get it where I wanted it. It's also important that when you're using the wax to hold something onto the piece, that you set the material into the wax, which requires it being pushed in at a critical moment in the cooling process. So I have different tools that I'll use sometimes to help hold materials in the hot wax and the molten wax while it's cooling. And oftentimes, as you'll see, I use my fingers, but that can get wax all over your gloves and then make it a little harder to work with your materials. But it's a challenging thing, but with practice you get a little better at it. At this point, I think I have finished this up to a place that I like it, and so just going to show you the different sides, and also show you it with the first piece that I made, and that will wrap up today's video on making these two, I think they're about 4 inches tall, monuments. I hope that you like them and that you'll come back and see me again soon. Thanks for watching.